Hey there everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with another layout. This one is for the Hip Kit Club and I'm using the 2017 February kits for this. It's my first layout after digging into the new box of goodies. And I've chosen a couple papers here that jumped out at me. I like the softness of all of them, and I really love this big Dreams piece on the Maggie Holmes chipboard sheet. And it's shiny metallic gold, and I tend to shy away from big pieces, and so I thought I'm going to make myself use that big piece. And I'm going to pick between one of these two pictures here, and I really like the way that the Dreams piece looks with either one of these. They're both beachy pictures, and they're both in St. Martin, and I have to kind of go back and forth to figure out which one I'm going to use, but I'm pointing out all the different pieces of paper that I've chosen and the different parts of each one that I like. I'm going to use this really pretty crepe paper Oasis wood grain as my background. I don't know, when I'm using a beachy picture, I think wood grain like this or craft is a great background because it just reminds me of the sand. And so my first thought was to use the sunset picture. And like I said, I'm definitely going to use Dreams. That's going to be my title. And I hardly ever start with the title. You know, that usually comes later, unless I'm doing a layout with a giant title as the background design. But this is going to change here. I'm going to kind of speed through this. I really love these light, soft colored circles on this Oasis crepe paper here. And so my punch was a little bit too big, so I'm just going to take some time and fussy cut some of these out. And the colors just remind me of sunset. You know, they're light. The different colors are so pretty. So I cut some of those out, set them aside. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, but I just knew that I wanted to cut them out. So now I'm going to come in and jazz up my background a little bit. And this is one of the new acrytones. It's from Shimmers, and it's in this month's color kit. And this is the white one, and it's called 3 Sheets to the Wind. And I'm just going to do a light brushing of this. Now, if you've not used the acrytones yet, they're self-priming acrylic paints, which means that you do not need to use gesso on your paper before you use them. So I didn't do any type of gesso work. And the only thing that I wish I would have done differently here is my brush was kind of wet. It was sitting in my cup of water. I tried to dry it out, but it was slightly damp. And so I think it softened up the white a lot because my brush had some water in it. So I'm going to come in with some blue, and this is also in the color kit. It's another acrytones, and it's called Baby Boy Blue. And I'm just going to mix it with the white. I'm sorry, it's not called Baby Boy Blue. It's called Blue My Top. I think the new pasties is called Baby Boy Blue. I'm getting them all confused. It's the blue acrytones. So I'm going to mix it with white and just kind of do a dry brushing of it onto the background here. I want it to be soft. I don't want it to compete with the blues in the picture, but I'm going to use a sheet of vellum that I tore in half and kind of put on top of it. So it's going to be a very soft blue, and I do wind up adding a lot more than I thought I would. I want it to kind of just be this really soft, hazy blue that you can kind of see through the vellum. I don't even know where I got the idea to use vellum for this. It just sort of popped into my head and I just went with it. And I am going to wind up using the sunny tropical picture instead of the sunset picture for this. So I added a little bit of water to it to water it down, and now I'm just going to use my brush and do some splattering. And that's another thing that you can do with the acrytones. If you don't have any sprays or liquids, you can just water some of the paint down and use your brush to flick it around. So this is kind of the idea that I want to do here, and now I want to get the vellum down. I'm going to wind up stitching through it, but for now I'm just going to add a little bit of ATG tape there so it's not going to move around. So now I can kind of play around with all the embellishments and decide where I'm going to put things and what I'm going to use. So I need some layering and some ideas, so I'm going to go through the papers again. And then I decide, wait, let's check out the embellishments. So I picked out some of the die cuts from the Maggie Holmes Chasing Dreams line. I'm going to add a little bit of tissue paper behind my picture. And I thought since there was so much blue in the photo and blue in my background that I wanted to bring in some pinks and yellows to kind of offset that, but nothing too bright at this point. So I used some of the cardstock that's in the cardstock kit. It's that really soft, light pink. And then I'm going to add in some of the flowers here. And this is from the Maggie Holmes Chasing Dreams. And I thought, you know, when I look at this picture, I think of course, the beach, the palm trees, the sand, the rocks. But I also think of really pretty floral blooms. You know, there's so many pretty tropical colors and flowers. And so I thought, I'm going to fussy cut one of these flowers out. And that's also Maggie Holmes. And I'm going to use that as a layering piece. And I like that pop of bright pink. I think that really coordinates nicely with the blue. And then that nice pop of yellow from the tag on the right. These flowers are so pretty on this paper. They're just gorgeous. So I didn't want it to be without a leaf, so I'm going to cut one out. And I like how this is going. My issue now is just deciding what kind of embellishments to keep adding. And I don't want to get it too busy, but I don't want to leave too much of it as white space. And so that's just part of the process, is just playing around with different pieces and seeing what looks good where, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I didn't want to do a lot of mixed media on top of the vellum. I wanted it to be soft. I did off camera, I don't even know if you noticed, but I did some stitching along the left side of the vellum with some shiny gold thread, and so it's officially stuck down. But the rest of it can kind of open up like a book because I have not glued anything down yet. So I really wanted to use one of those really cute pink, I almost call that a flower, camera from the other Maggie Holmes. There's a lot of Maggie Holmes in this collection, or in this kit. You've got a lot of the Chasing Dreams and some of the Oasis, and it looks really pretty together. This is another one from Chasing Dreams. And I wanted to cut this piece out. Dreams are for chasing. I wind up not using it, but for a while I try to make it work. Since I know that my title is going to be Dreams, I thought that was a nice little addition. And I think the vellum just kind of softens everything up. I like how it makes everything kind of hazy behind it, but you can still see through it. Just gives a really neat effect. And I'm not a huge bird person, but you know, this is a beachy photo and there were birds flying around and it was just one of those peaceful days. And so I thought the bird was appropriate. And I cut another one of those really bright pink flowers, and I'm going to layer it over to the bottom right underneath the vellum. And I love how you can kind of see it, but it's kind of hidden. And then I'm going to build a little cluster on top of it with that little yellow heart and then that New Adventures piece. So I'm going to use my ATG to stick down these flowers. So if I decide to move them, I can. They're not officially permanently there like it would be if I used my glue. So I do wind up leaving them there, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to adjust the photo, and you know, sometimes you have to adjust your background pieces. I'm going to come in with some bright blue thread, and this is very subtle. You can't even really tell from here, but in person it gives a little pop of blue. It gives some really fun texture, and I even add a little bit underneath there, and again, it's very subtle. My original thought was to make my title Caribbean Dreams or Beach Dreams, but I just think it looks fine the way it is. I didn't really have the right letters. I didn't want my title to be too big, and I didn't want to put any other words after dreams because I like the way the dreams looked right there, right underneath the picture. So I just decided to leave the title Dreams. I did add a little bit of adhesive underneath the picture before I glued it down. That's going to give it a little bit of dimension, which I do that quite a lot. I know a lot of people use the adhesive foam, and it's fantastic. I'm going to add a little tiny piece of it behind the bird, since I stuck the little feet on top of the D, and she needs a little place to rest. So I do decide to do a little bit of splattering on top of the vellum, and it's not a lot, but I felt like it needed a little bit of something to echo the blue, and so it's just a subtle kind of blue splatters here. And it's always going to dry a little softer on the vellum. It's just the nature of how vellum is. And this is Jenny B Blue Vibes, and we got that several months ago in a color kit, and I use it so much. I did a little stitching off camera there. That's with some shiny gold thread. And then I'm going to come in with another bird, 2 birds on 1 page. And this is another Maggie Holmes sticker sheet there. And I'm just going to add a couple of sayings and phrases. Life collected, and today was everything. And then these are the Chamel Little by Little wood buttons, and I add 1 little blue in there to the center of that camera. Just gives that area a pop of blue. And then I'm going to use the yellow piece from the Paige Evans Oh My Heart collection from this little booklet here. It's got a little sheet of washi tape. And I'm just trying to bring in the pinks, the yellows, and the blues all down to that right corner there. Had to use one of these hearts. Those are so cute. They're soft and squishy. They're like little gold pillows. I thought that was the perfect spot to add one down there at the bottom. And I'm going to add a little bit of blue thread under it. And then I decide I need something else. So I chose another flower and leaves from the Maggie Holmes sticker sheet, and I'm gonna stick it right there. I do kind of play around with where could I put this. I felt like it needed another flower. My only problem was that it's a peachy color, and I felt like it didn't really stand out enough. So I thought maybe I'll add some hot pink thread under it to pick up the pinks from those really big flowers. And it did, but it just wasn't enough. So I went back to that big sticker, or not sticker sheet, pattern paper, that one right there, and I cut a little bit of another flower to layer underneath that peachy flower. And I think it was the perfect thing because it adds that bright pink right there in that area, and I felt like it needed it. Right there. I'm still going to leave the pink thread there too, so that gives it a nice little detail. I love how this is looking. I'm going to add a little bit of journaling at the bottom. I just put where we were. We were at Maho Bay, St. Martin, and it was the perfect day. This was the same day that we watched the big planes land. It was just a gorgeous day. I would love to go back there. And the last thing I'm going to do is add some Heidi Swap Gold Color Shine. And it's just mesmerizing to watch this stuff splatter on the paper. I love it. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Yep, there's the end of the video there. There's my final project. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite layouts I've made in a while, and it turned out totally different than I thought it would. I'm very excited about the colors and all those flowers, and I just love the picture. So let me know if you have any questions or you know, anything about the Hip Kit Club or the kits themselves or any techniques that I used. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great week.